Hello everyone, it's me, Alisa Vardonska. Happy to welcome you to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about the 7 signs of women who easily fall into abusive relationships. Have you ever really thought about the fact that we indeed truly create our own lives? After all, if you look around, you can notice that a person who is confident and knows their worth often achieves success in life. For example, a person who is insecure, unaware of their talents, doesn't recognize their strengths, and lacks self-confidence often suffers in life and frequently experiences emotions they would rather not feel. So, we create our own lives. We shape them ourselves, and often women choose unconsciously one option is to suffer in this life. For example, to suffer in relationships. Choosing a partner who will make them suffer. Moreover, this happens unconsciously. And so the girl indeed became a woman, and she encountered various men along the way. They, one way or another, caused her some pain and brought her some misfortunes. She felt that she wasn't really living at all, meaning she was not living the life she wanted. That is, the man cheats, the man hits, the man drinks, and he doesn't treat her as she wants. So, the men change, but the relationships often repeat. Let's say the scenarios repeat. So, in reality, it all depends on the person. Often we play out our own scripts in life. So, these scripts often come from childhood. The model shown by our parents is often played out in many different ways in our adult lives. To break out of a cycle of misfortunes, you need to sort out your own programs. Programs that are instilled in us, willingly or unwillingly. But we understood that this is the right way to live, that this is a normal way to live. Today I want to talk about those women, about the signs of those women who will enter abusive relationships and will live an unhappy life, often without realizing it. That is, blaming, for example, a partner, blaming they're complicated. Life, bad luck, some external factors, anything and anyone but not themselves. A person is the creator of their own life, so it's essential to start with oneself. The first sign of a woman who will definitely end up in an abusive relationship is thinking, I can change him. And what seems so terrible about that? A woman wants her man to become better. The scary part is that in such relationships, the woman chooses not herself, but the man. She is willing to spend her energy investing in a man who does not satisfy her. So initially, upon meeting, he does not satisfy her. He is not the person she would want to be with. He is not the person who makes her happy from the start. She initially takes on the role of the aggressor. In other words, she wants to break the other person, to reshape them as she desires. But over time, she falls into the role of the victim and endures the tyrant. Why does she descend into victimhood? It's very simple. She realizes over time that she cannot change him. She feels unhappy. She starts to pity herself. That's it. She is in a victim state. When a person falls into a victim state, they become like a magnet for misfortune. And the man feels the woman's weakness and starts to tyrannize her. So, first, if you recognize yourself in this situation, no, you shouldn't do that. You need to look deep into your feelings. When you meet a man, think about whether you want to be with him, what you feel around him, what has changed in you, what has changed in your perception of the world. If you indeed grow wings around this man and feel happier than without him, then you are doing everything right. If you want to change something and reshape him, it's better not to start. It's better to part ways, not to break life for yourself or that man. Moving on. The second sign is emotional. Abuse from parents in childhood. Childhood is our foundation. It's the basis for either a happy or not so happy life in the future. But if a person can still look deep within themselves, sort out their emotions, feelings, and experiences, and go back a bit to childhood to dig around, they can understand that some parental beliefs are not the truth. what was good for your parents may not be true for you, and you may need something completely different in this life. Maybe, maybe not, but you are perhaps distinctive souls, and what worked for them may not work for you at all. In that case, you need to delve into your childhood traumas, where your parents may not have given you the feelings you wanted at all, criticized you a lot, and there may have been not just emotional abuse. It's necessary to return to those feelings and live through them, to allow yourself to experience those feelings again, to understand that you are not to blame for what happened to you. And yes, indeed, even if your parents treated you very severely, harshly, it's important to try to forgive them. Perhaps in one way or another, they didn't understand what they were doing, and they couldn't have done it differently. So forgiveness is like a path to healing. And yes, it's necessary to look for the cause and effect relationship. That is, if you are unhappy right now, for example, or maybe you encounter men who cheat on you. So one man was like that. He cheated and disappeared. You broke up, and the second man did exactly the same thing. And you realize that it shouldn't be this way. It's wrong. And going back to childhood, you realize that your father treated your mother the same way. Perhaps you are, in some ways, adopting your mother's behavioral model. This all leads to similar events happening to you in your life. So, if you have something cyclical in your life, go back to your childhood and try to find the roots from there. When you start looking within yourself and figuring things out, the answers actually come very easily. Moving on. Nothing depends on me. You've probably encountered someone like that in your life. Or maybe you've said such a phrase. If you say such a phrase, it means you are not taking responsibility for your own life at all. This person is focused on their troubles. Often, those troubles are caused by close people, meaning their immediate surroundings. And in reality, when you look at such a person, such a woman, her life is really concentrated on a series of misfortunes, a chain of tragic events. She doesn't understand that the choice in this life is hers. It's easier for her not to take responsibility for her life and to endure a tyrant husband who might raise his hand, or there might be emotional abuse or something else happening. It's easier for her to endure and complain than to think about the fact that she doesn't want to live like this and try to do something for her own life, to change something so she can finally feel not like a victim, not unhappy or dissatisfied with life, but just try to feel like a happy person. But it's difficult. It's easier to focus on troubles, to complain about life. People will always pity you, sympathize with you, but that will never bring you happiness. And healing will only happen when a person realizes that they are the author of their own life. In other words, if a woman understands that she is creating her life and that her future depends on her decisions, then how she will live tomorrow, the next year, and the next 10 years is completely up to her and the choices she makes today. As soon as she realizes this, her life will start to change dramatically. What needs to be gotten rid of here? Self-blame and torment. Because for such a woman, it's still difficult to make a decision, for example, to break up with a tyrant man. For the simple reason that she will then blame herself for leaving him to fate, for example, wondering how he will manage without her, and so on. In other words, there will be a lot of torment. It's hard to shift your focus from the time when you were unhappy and concentrated on troubles to the realization that now you want to live your life happily and not think about how, for example, your ex-husband, the tyrant, will now build his life. And he will build his life. He will find another victim to live his life within exactly the same way. But your life is only in your hands, yes, and here. The most important thing is free will and the belief that you can turn your own life in the direction you want. Moving on, the absence of personal boundaries. This is another indicator that a woman is likely to end up in an abusive relationship. It's very simple. She doesn't know where her personal boundaries are and where her partner's boundaries are. She often dissolves into her partner's identity. She wants him to be happy. She focuses on his preferences and desires, and she no longer thinks about what I want. What does a woman need to do to be happy? She needs to listen to herself. A happy woman makes everyone around her happy. She energizes us like the sun. She warms everyone around her. She gives off the right energy. She shares her warmth, and everything around her blossoms. Her energy is creative when she is happy, and the energy of an unhappy woman is destructive. The moment a woman realizes that by creating happiness for herself, she creates happiness for others, her life can be completely transformed. But she, for example, wants to be a good wife for him and looks into his mouth to make sure he is happy. Okay, like me, well, I got upset, but whatever, it's fine. The main thing is that he is calm. The main thing is that everything is okay with him. This lack of personal boundaries and the absence of understanding that I am valuable and my feelings are valuable leads to a woman falling into abusive relationships. The man quickly gets used to this, easily realizes that he can manipulate the woman and does so very simply. He lives a wonderful life next to her while she is in such an unhappy state because she doesn't do anything nice for herself, and he manipulates her, and he is completely fine with it. Moving on. So, the woman savior. This is a woman who is, let's say, quite sympathetic. Well, perhaps her parents taught her from childhood that she should feel sorry for everyone whose life has been difficult. That is usually what happens in families where the parents are very sympathetic to everyone around. And so they're all focused on everyone around them, but again, not on their own world, not on how to make themselves happy, but on how to make someone else happy, to bring joy to someone. But that's not how it works. And a person grows up thinking, well, a woman grows up and she thinks, how can I make someone happy? Some guy, right? I'll make him happy. And then she meets such a wounded soul, for example, someone who isn't succeeding in life, who struggles with work, who hasn't done well with education, with their profession, who may be somewhat troubled, someone who needs to be saved, cared for. And she will take all of this on herself and try to carry it. Inside, she will comfort herself with the thought that this is right, that this is good, but will she feel happy at that moment when she has taken on too much in life, when she is actually struggling and needs support, but no, she's used to pitying someone. She needs to save someone. Moving on. A neglected child often ends up in abusive relationships, meaning a girl who wasn't loved enough doesn't know her own worth. Her parents may have criticized her, perhaps not said any kind words, told her she didn't measure up, that she wasn't very pretty on the outside, and that she wasn't very well-mannered on the inside, and that she was doing just average to poorly in school. In other words, she heard criticism directed at her, but never anything good. So she is looking for love. She wants to be loved. And at that moment, she meets someone again, with whom she won't build a normal, healthy relationship because she hasn't figured herself out. She doesn't understand her own worth. She hasn't worked on her self-esteem. She hasn't come to terms with herself. She's looking for a substitute for parental love. She wants someone to give her that love and often finds, for example, a man who, in a way, replaces her father. He is authoritative, strong, and used to making decisions for her. I don't know. For example, she sits at home and doesn't make any decisions. It's like she's a little child. But even if at first such a relationship may please the woman, she eventually gets tired of it. A person always wants to make their own decisions in life, to understand their worth, to achieve something. But when an adult realizes that they don't really amount to much in this world, and all decisions are made for them, and at any moment they might get a harsh word thrown at them, well, they can say anything to her because she is dependent like a little child. So today she can be patted on the head, and tomorrow, for example, get a spanking. And finally, I am just a weak woman. This helplessness, this mindset from childhood is often instilled in girls and parents too in their childhood that, well, you are a girl, you are weak. Which girls are weak? Girls are actually very strong, both in spirit and will, and often physically strong as well. Why instill this in a person? Why make a growing individual believe that they are weak? Perhaps this girl, believing in her own abilities, will achieve incredible heights in her life. But when such a girl, who thinks she is helpless, tries to make decisions in her life, she always believes that she is weak, that she is powerless. And this mindset works in such a way that she thinks, well, I'll find a man, let him make decisions for me. Let him do things for me. Let him be the man. I am weak. I am a woman. And in the end, the girl who has grown up ends up in unhealthy relationships. She doesn't feel happy because she has this mindset. She is weak. She can't do anything in this life. And even if she is unhappy, for example, in a relationship, she can't make the decision to break up because how will she be left, for instance, without a husband on the street, without an income, and so on? So our childhood mindsets have a strong influence on us in the future. If you notice some kind of cyclical pattern in your life, perhaps consider trying going back to your childhood. Try to find a moment, perhaps in your childhood, that contributed to the similar situation happening in your life now. Try to experience the emotions, maybe cry those emotions out. Feel yourself, feel your inner child, and believe me, if you can live through these emotions, experience and accept yourself as you are, you will significantly change your life for the better. That's all I have for this video. It was me, Alisa Vardomska. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Write in the comments what you'd like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell, and goodbye.